Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and quick thought about today and the Joe Rogan Spotify deal. Basically, Joe Rogan is leaving YouTube as in his podcast format and going to Spotify, and he gets $100 million for it. I'm not too well versed in exactly what the terms of that $100 million are, but basically he's the #1 podcast in the world, been very successful, and is now leaving YouTube and going to Spotify. And of course, $100 million, speaks very well on its own. But there, at least, what I think is entertaining is he went to Alex Jones and basically said, "You know what, Alex, I want to tell you what's up, and basically I want you to, go and evangelize it and, tell the people what's going on." So, Alex Jones, despite being banned from virtually every platform, still has more standing than, most people on the internet by a long shot. And, still a great, he's a great dramatist, a great person for entertainment value. And, still more truthful than CNN and MSNBC and all the rest of the existing dinosaur legacy media outlets. I mean, and a dramatic rant about conspiracies, which, are at this point not theories but documented in, virtually every quarter. It's still more valid than at just promoting state propaganda, right? There's even the flat earthers still tell more truth at this point in a large way than MSNBC does. But there's lots of different creators on the web. The internet is a very interesting creation, and it kind of signifies the phase change in the species that's associated in what I've been calling the mitosis of worlds, right? An absolute dimensional shift, a frequency and phase change for that we are individuals, and the world in which we operate is kind of the sum total, not just of us, but of our interactions, right? And so the internet, right, it has content which spans everything that people are looking for. Cat videos, right-wing, left-wing, apolitical, just pure chaos, just video games, people are into Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and all the, the fanboy stuff, and there's literally the infinite horizon of the web, and there's infinite horizons of data creation. And, the old YouTube was so awesome because it was just kind of a Wild West, and the algorithm was very open source, and so you could just really be a person making videos, and YouTube would actually guide people to you based on their user habits. And then at some point, basically, again, the biggest evidence that Trump isn't a part of this whole thing is how the whole system has reacted in response to it, because they could have achieved all of these internet censorship goals under, Hillary Clinton presidency, for example. And it's very encouraging to hear that the Trump DOJ is now bringing antitrust charges against Google and, Alphabet and potentially some of the other tech giants. And I guess, 23 other state attorneys general. So, people, the black-pilled of YouTube and of the internet might be so upset that nothing has happened yet. But one thing I've learned from working within the system and working within compliance is that shit takes a long, long time to move through the system. And if you want to actually get things done in this world for real and not just bitch about things and complain as a functionary of some larger entity, but actually make new things, and, which also involves demolishing old things generally, literally, you have to basically, wait, and you have to go through the process, and it takes a long time. And there's ways to speed it up, but there's not a way to make anything instantaneous, not in the physical world. But the internet is different. You can create things almost instantaneously, right? I'm basically just recording a video, and then I'll upload it, and then that's content. And, I may only get, 100 views or so on YouTube, even for the good videos, right? I consider them all good, I guess. But the funny thing is, we have literally 25 subscribers on YouTube for every 1 subscriber we have on BitChute, and we literally get essentially the same amount of views on both platforms at this point. It's actually pretty insane how much the stranglehold is on the algorithm. It's not mild, it's very extreme, and they are not going to relent on it, because to them it's not a priority for money, it's a priority for control. And they won't relieve control because they can't. It'll lead to the collapse of an entire structure that they have been the beneficiaries of. And I will be right back. So there's the infinite horizon of content generation, and it's up to people to engage in what they are interested in, right? And there's a natural filtration process of just the open, wild west internet, of people gravitating towards the things that they find to be most entertaining. And the election of Trump really signified that they can't allow that to happen anymore, because it actually resulted in a threatening situation to the whole plan, towards world communism, what people have affectionately called the New World Order, right? Even the mayor of Chicago basically says we all need to be pledging allegiance to the New World Order. Literally, she just said that. It's like at a certain point you acknowledge that there's a deliberate plan to inflame the conspiracy crowd, because they know that it'll make them seem more extreme. And the push right now is very, very intense to make things seem extreme that really aren't extreme at all. From the very beginning, Trump's détente approach with Russia has never been an extreme position. It's never been a threatening position to U.S. national security. It's always been a good idea. And the fundamental reason why I even supported him in 2016 was the fact that he was against essentially the World War III scenario, no-fly zones in Syria that was being proffered by Hillary Clinton, right? Make no mistake, we would have already been in direct military conflict with Russia and likely China under that regime. And, the trade war is a pressure release valve, right? Trump's whole trade war is seen metaphysically, 5-dimensionally, is a pressure release valve from what many consider to be the inevitable risk of military conflict with China, and what they call the Thucydides trap, right? And Russia and China say that the Thucydides trap doesn't exist. It's just the made-up idea of an academic person who doesn't know what he's talking about ultimately in reality. But there's good arguments on both sides. Ultimately, which way it plays out will be decided in the hearts of men, right? On their side and our side, on all sides. And whether or not we can transcend and embrace the phase change that is already upon us, right? Because if we react in fear and violence to everything that's happening, then yes, there is some form of, World War III inevitable conflict, that is baked into the cake. If, however, people can transcend the entire structure and refuse to enable that to happen, then it won't happen. And this reality is far more malleable than most people are willing to believe at a lot of times, mainly because they're not involved in the creation process, as we discussed in 2 videos ago, in Home Births for a Better Humanity. You won't see God if you don't put yourself in a field of God. The field of God is negentropy. It is the opposite of entropy. It works in, counter time and counter space, right? It's the universal organization of knowledge, noetic information, and physical, patterns in the universe, right? It's the supercomputer of the universe, the mind of God. And everything in the physical universe is dissolving, but everything in the etheric universe is always reaching higher and higher states of complexity and organization. And so, here's my take on the whole thing from a metaphysics perspective, is that the content creators that are most in alignment with the prime field, right, of the negentropic field, those are producing things that will inevitably gain traction and attention within within the larger viewership base. And again, it's not necessarily all quantitative, it's qualitative. You want your message to find the people that it's designed to be heard by. It doesn't really matter if somebody hears it who doesn't care about what you're saying at all, right? So it's very much, are you reaching the people who you're looking for, and are they reaching you in return? And so I guess you could say that the entities that are censoring users who are trying to curate the internet and pick and choose which things they find acceptable or not, even though the existing law of the land makes it very clear what are crimes and what are not crimes. And under that law of the land, you're only allowed to be a platform if you do not curate. And so if you curate, you are a publisher. And so if you're a publisher, you're accountable for all of the users and their content creation, right? So again, as many people have pointed out, this is the conundrum that we're facing with the big tech companies. And Joe Rogan has basically, it's just a shot across the bow that there is a limit to this. There is a limit to how much you can try and circumscribe people's attention and control what they want to see, especially because Joe Rogan has definitely done conspiracy stuff in the past, but he is very much a normie kind of guy. You know, he's not going to really stand up for things in a hard sense. He's really only standing up now because he realizes that even as the #1 guy, he still has to beg them to let him choose his guests, right? And he can't do them live anymore because now it's legally consequential for these self-same tech companies, right? In the episode with Tim Pool, right, the Twitter's top lawyer was trying to get the information about certain users about some scandal, one of the many censorship scandals, and he wouldn't provide it, and that leaked audio basically caused a whole legal shitstorm for Twitter. And there's going to be many legal shitstorms for Twitter and for YouTube and for Facebook and all the rest, because the light of the universe, the light of God, reaches all things in due time, right? You might try and just keep adding layer and shielding and armoring, but eventually the light breaks through, even if it takes 1,000 years, right? Even if it takes 10,000 years of it, everything is revealed, and all that is hidden will become known. And so I guess I'm just encouraging everyone to see victory as inevitable, because metaphysically it always is, it always has been, and it always will be. But it is premised on the good actors, those who are moving within the field of God, to constantly and unwaveringly be dedicated to their craft and producing everything that they are destined to produce, right? And that entails a level of spiritual dedication, right? If you are materially inclined, none of that will seem attractive. But if you are spiritually inclined, if you seek, life beyond your physical life, and I'm not just talking about dedicating yourself to the church, I'm talking about reputation. I'm talking about, I consider Plato to be immortal. He is immortal. Plato's been dead for thousands of years. Everyone knows his name. Well, everyone who reads books and knows anything knows who Plato is, So can you create something on par with Plato? Can you contribute something of equal value to the world? That's the question. And whether or not it's recognized by a platform, well, that'll be settled in due time, but again, they cannot hide what is inevitably true, and they won't hide it forever. And hopefully in time, this is never going to be my main source of income. I'm confident of that. But, as long as the message is getting out there. Anyway, appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.